Hey, Dr. Andre, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
Ready for the semester to end?
I'm starting summer, so doesn't really
Oh,
matter.
you're going to be with us. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
At least we get a little break. That's good.
Well,
Between
for
the
4 days,
spring and
yeah,
the summer.
yeah.
Quick
No, I'm
little
having a
getaway.
baby in September, so I cannot really
Ah,
leave.
inshallah. Oh, okay. And I
Mm.
hope all goes well with your wife and that.
Yeah, it's going okay.
Do you know if it's a
So
boy or a girl?
it's a boy. It's a
Oh,
boy.
okay. You have two boys now, right? Or is it a
I
girl and a
have
boy?
boy and a girl.
Oh, okay. So at least they have another little brother.
Yeah, I'll get another one. One boy.
And inshallah, all goes
Ah,
well.
yeah, I hope so. I hope
Hey, Miss
so.
Dania, how are you?
Hey, Miss Fatima, my neighbor, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm your neighbor. Yeah, all's
Seriously,
good.
Fatima? Dr. Andre, she doesn't know she's my neighbor.
No, I just, no,
Well, you're very
my
sweet.
mind's a little bit muddled at the moment,
Mm.
It's okay.
sorting out the exams and that, and because I'm in the control room, so I'm like sorting everything out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in the control room. Okay.
Yes, yeah, I'm in today and tomorrow for exam
Okay.
collections.
Okay. I just have to put it in the envelope. I'm ready.
Yeah. Oh, you're ready? Okay, then anytime you want to pass by, feel free.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Same for you, Miss Dani. Auntie, do you have a final or not?
Sweetie, I'm not a course coordinator.
Okay, sorry.
I'm feeling good.
Stress-free, mashallah, mashallah.
Exactly. It's you guys, not me anymore.
Moderation. We can do it. We can. A nice
Not
challenge.
not my business anymore.
Not my business.
I'm waiting for summer. I will be course coordinator. Don't forget that.
There's no exam committee in summer, so I won't.
Thanks
I
God.
won't need. Yeah, I won't need to worry about the control room.
No. We don't have to because we do the exams in
How
the
are you?
class.
All's good. Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Isa, here we have to book in advance and coordinate with each other, make sure there are no clashes.
I think Omar is getting ready.
Okay, good, perfect. Oh yeah, he's running it today.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I can hear him on the hallway.
Oh, I thought he was in the room with you. His voice so clear.
Well, yeah.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I just have a technical issue in the classroom that I'm in. I just want to see if Miss Meha hears me. Miss Meha, are you there?
Good
You
afternoon,
guys hear me?
everyone.
Because I have a technical issue. I need
Yeah,
someone
we
to
can hear
come.
you.
Yes,
You need Miss Maha
Yes,
to
we can
help you
hear
with
you.
something?
yes, because it's not signing in the classroom that I'm in. So I'm
Okay, I
trying
don't
to
know if Miss
open.
Maha will be of any
Trying
help,
to,
but I'll get her to assist.
it's not opening. Okay, I think I'm figuring it out. Okay, guys, I think what I'll do is, since no one is here in this classroom, so I'll just do it in my office. If you guys don't mind, just it will take only like 1 minute. Is that okay, Dr. Farid?
Yeah, no problem. Sure, definitely.
Okay, guys, hello. Sorry for this technical issue that happened. So I'm gonna conduct this training session from my office. Do you guys all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Share screen. Okay. Okay. So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, so Bismillahirrahmanirrahim wa bihi nasta'in. Welcome to Introduction to Writing and Presenting Research. This is an integral training. Do you guys all hear me? All fine? And yeah, perfect. And you see my screen, correct? Perfect.
No, we don't see your screen. We see you, Dr. Amr. If you're, now we see your screen if you're
Yeah,
sharing.
okay, perfect.
Now
Perfect.
we see.
Let me close my camera then. Okay. So for today, honestly, I was thinking of doing something that hopefully would benefit those who are actually experts in the matter as a refreshment, and to those who are getting introduced into research, as I am in a way, as I consider myself still not an expert, not even an advanced researcher. I'm still in the intermediate aspect. So hopefully this research session will definitely open new doors to many, and we would understand research in a very simple form to help us in our writing and presenting aspects. Now, just to be sure that this authorship of this training is conducted from me to the Australian University of Kuwait, specifically the College of Business, Dean's Office, and the Research Center, which is led right now by Dr. Vladimir Simovok. So thank you, Dr. Vladimir, for this opportunity and our dean. So just to be clear, I just want to read this really quick before I start. This research training handbook is written specifically for scientists and researchers who have received formal education in research methods or management research. So anybody who did their PhDs or masters should have a background in relation to research. In addition to those who have already either published research as a form of final project, thesis, dissertation, conference, symposiums, book chapters, or journal articles, and any other form of research publications. So this would be actually also to you. The handbook is English, of course, and intended for English research publications, not any other publications in terms of other languages, because it might differ a little bit. And the handbook is intentionally made simplistic for practicality. And the author, which is me, I apologize upfront to anyone who thinks or feels that it's very simple to in a way that I'm hopefully not insulting anybody's intelligence. I'm just trying to refresh those who are old to the game and those who are new to the game. So the first thing I want to start with is, what does research really mean? And this is something that is very interesting. A lot of people, they actually, sometimes overcomplicate it. What does research actually mean? Honestly, research is basically redoing search itself. So if you remove the RE from search, it's basically a search. However, when we say research, so I'm actually researching what others had searched. And we say that in a sense that I'm going back to literature and I review it. That's why we call it literature review. So I'm reviewing those who actually contributed to literature, and based on their contribution, I'm actually researching what they searched. And there is actually also categories in terms of that, because there is peer-reviewed research and there is just research. And we always aim in academia to go to peer-reviewed research, because when we say peer-reviewed, it's more authentic in the field, it's more scientific, it has more bases, and so on and so forth. So just remember, research by itself, in its simple form, we are actually researching what others has searched, and at the same time, we're trying to review the literature, and that's why we call it literature review. Others would actually say it in the definition aspect as a careful investigation or inquiry, especially through search for new facts in any branch of knowledge. And by saying any branch of knowledge, any discipline or any field or aspect of literature itself. Now, it is also said that it is a systemized effort to gain new knowledge. So for anyone to understand something or to expand his knowledge in something, he actually needs to do research. So if there is something we don't know, we actually go and do research and get to know it. And that's why we could actually even consider research as a movement from the known to the unknown. And once you go to the unknown, you start discovering, and basically you know better and you know more. And we have a saying also that says, the more I know, I realize actually that I didn't know. And that's the beauty of research itself. And as academics and scientists, we always tend to know more and understand things in a better way. Now, research is a scientific approach, and this needs to be well understood. It is not something that anyone could do. Correct. Anyone could go to any search engine or any website and does or conduct research. However, is he conducting a scientific research? Is he using certain scientific approaches? And the reason here is we need to have a scientific approach, because this research could be duplicated or basically replicated, and it needs to be tested. It needs to be understood by other peers or other scientific researchers and so on and so forth. So we need to have a system that actually binds our work to make it scientific. Now, all researchers, regardless of what's their field or specialty, whether you're an economist, or whether you're into finance, marketing, medicine, engineering, aviation, you name it, what major you're in, even if you're English literature, there is 3 components that are very important, and they all do it, which is data collection, data analysis, and report writing. We all need to collect data. We all need to analyze this data. And we need to always put in mind that once we collect this data and once we analyze them, we actually write the report. And as you see here, when we say the data collection, we're referring basically not only to the data that we're collecting as in numbers, but also, or even information, but as observing, measuring, and recording information. Data analysis, we're referring here to arranging and organizing the data that we collected, so they, or we, basically be able to find out what their significance is and generalize about them. And we start analyzing them and talking about them to make a sense out of them. I could say right now 2, 7, 8, and these random numbers, and they might not have any meaning. However, once I analyze them, I could say there were 2 females, 4 males, 7 students. Once I give them a meaning, I could then be able to write about it and discuss them. And this is basically where we come to the point where we have report writing, which is basically its inseparable part. And basically, we put the results and findings in that section of the research study. Now, before I go to certain aspects of research and continuing the steps of any systematic research, I just want to say something which is very important, and we should take it as students, and we start saying it to our also students. I want to ask a question just to make it a very interactive training session. What does literature review mean, or how does literature review gets built up? How do we build a proper literature review? Anyone? Yeah, Ms. Fatma, go ahead.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Dr. Ahmad, for the session today. I believe what makes like a good literature review is when we look at existing researchers' results, how they've carried out their research design, and we can contrast between different researchers' results, try to synthesize between their different discoveries, try to maybe even make connections.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Fatma.
You're welcome.
Who else? What does literature review mean? Or what is literature? Let's put it this way. What is literature? Anyone, guys? I need at least 2 more. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Mina.
I say it would be a compilation of different, let's say, research as well. compilation of different literatures, different research that you compile into one literature review. And as Fatma has said, we compare and contrast what other authors have said about the same topic.
Thank you, spot on. Thank you, Dr. Mina. Last one. I need someone also to just give me his last aspect or what does literature mean? Anyone else? Dr. Stephen, go ahead.
Past stuff that's been written about a particular topic.
Exactly, 100%. So let me put it this way. You guys are all correct, by the way. Just let's give this example. Imagine there was a guy called, I'm just going to go with Stephen. I love him so much. So let's say Dr. Stephen, he was the first human being on Earth. And he was walking around and he saw fire. And when he saw this fire, he didn't know what to call it, so he called it fire. So he took a paper, took a pen, and he wrote, this is called fire, F-I-R-E. And he took that piece of paper. Let's imagine that he drew this fire, he gave it a color and whatnot, and he started talking about its characteristics. And then he took that paper and he put it in a shelf. The next day he came and he said, let's see this fire, which I call fire, how does it interact with water? And he realized that it actually distinguished fire. So he wrote another paper. Fire and water does not mix well, and so on and so forth. Third day, he saw fire, but it was an oily fire, like it was oil with fire mixed, and it was ignited. And he put water, and it didn't happen. Nothing happened. And he started writing another paper saying X, Y, Z fire that is mixed with oil is not distinguished by water. And with time, after Stephen, Dr. Dieter came, Miss Dania came, Fatma, Mirna, Alpar, Umar, Marcel, and so on and so forth. They started building this literature that is about fire. And they could call it Journal of Fire. And in this journal, if it was very authentic, very systematic, very respected, peer-reviewed, so on and so forth, it would have a better impact factor in the field in reference to fire and so on and so forth. And this is basically literature. So when Dr. Stephen, as a professor, tells his student, he says, Umar, go and do literature review. Go and review the literature. What he really actually means, as he said, go back to past research and see what your peers, what the experts in that field has said about this particular thing. Do you guys get, I'm trying my best to simplify what does literature review mean? And it's very important because I've seen many people, once they do literature, they get confused in terms of as if they're conducting something in that section. You're actually not. All you're doing is you're going back, as Dr. Stephen said, back to previous studies, and you're basically reviewing them. Do you guys get it? Is there anyone who wants to add something to it before I continue? So, just really quick, Dr. Stephen, you guys all see my screen, correct?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Perfect. So,
Yes, Dr. Omar.
perfect. Thank you. So, research is systematic because it follows certain steps that are logical in order, and they are actually in order to a sense. Let's put it 90%. These steps are as following. You need to understand the research that you're conducting. You need to collect data. You need to review what is basically written in the literature. Analyze the data that you have collected. Draw conclusions and generalize them. And this is basically the steps that any person needs to follow before starting any research. So you need to understand, review, collect data, analyze data, and then draw conclusions and generalize them. Now, when I say understanding, it's not understanding the field that you're in. Of course, you'll be understanding the field that you're in, but you need to understand the problem that you're trying to identify. So the nature of the problem to be studied and identifying the related areas of knowledge. That's one. Number two, once that is done, then you need to go to step two. Basically, I'm going to go and review the literature to understand how others have approached or dealt with the problem. I cannot go and do the same problems that Dr. Stephen has faced or the same limitations that Ms. Marcel has also spoke about in her findings. I cannot go and do the same method that Ms. Fatima did, exactly the same with no differences. That's not going to be a contribution to knowledge. And by the way, these kind of simple things actually differentiate between what's a Q1 research, what's an A star research, what's an A, Q2, or B or C, Q2, Q3, and it actually identifies what kind of research you're going to be publishing. Is it really a new approach? Is it really a contribution to knowledge? Would many people benefit, or is it only about Kuwait? If the study is only about Kuwait, most likely it won't be a Q1. It won't be an A-star journal. You get the concept, and you could realize this by seeing, for example, Nobel Prize winners, or those that get the best awards worldwide. Most likely, they're actually solving certain problems for everyone, not specific people or country. So basically, we start off by asking the question. So I'm gonna set a question just for the fun of it. It's just as an example between us, and hopefully we'll enjoy such a thing. So let me see really quick. Okay, most of you guys I know, so let's go with it. So for example, I have a question. Who is, for example, who's stronger in terms of physical strength, Dr. Wael or Professor Alper? And let's take many aspects or many variables into perspective. Let's take height, weight, age, experience, whether they have martial arts, whatever, and all of these kind of things. And now you realize that my simple question that I asked in the beginning started opening many doors that I'm hoping to basically find answers to. And once I compile all of these answers, they will give me a form or a sense of an answer to basically cover the search that I'm trying to find based on the variables that I've presented. Does that make a sense in a way or another? So it's a simple question that actually opens many other doors. Yes? Go ahead, Ms. Marcel.
Sorry, Dr. Omar, I was just trying to give a thumbs up that it was clear.
Thank you. Thank you. And by the way, guys, if you want to take the mic, just take it. You don't have to raise your hand. We're all colleagues, and I'm here to learn from you more than you guys learn from me. So anytime, just please raise your hand, and I'd appreciate it to be an interactive session. So again, as I said, it's a simple question that you actually set, and this simple question starts expanding and opening many other doors. And once you set this question with certain variables and you put certain frameworks and control it in a way or another, it becomes more specific and more narrow towards what you want to really actually find. So you ask the question, and then we identify the important factors in it, as we said just now. So we said, okay, we want to see this, who is stronger, Dr. Wael or Professor Alper? So let's identify the important factors. You know, let's say height, weight, past experience in martial art, and so on and so forth. Who has more wasta? Who's the head of who's the head of department? You know, and so these kind of questions, and then we formulate our hypothesis, and then we collect relevant information, and then we go to test our hypotheses. And when I say we test them, we actually test them. We really actually, they need to be testable. And basically, most hypotheses we have like the null, and then we have what hypothesis 1, 2, 3. And to many papers I've seen, that's actually, they actually go even 1A, 1B, 1C, to that extent. They actually identify these hypotheses and they test them. The more the hypotheses are testable, the better research is, and it's more sustainable in terms of other researchers to replicate or actually test your results. And now, when we what we really actually want to find in terms of our results, and then we reconsidering the theory that we are presenting. We put the theory in place, and we actually say, yes, of course, those who have at least 5 years of martial art, yes, those who are head of departments, those who have military experience, X, Y, Z, actually are more stronger than any other individual. And when we tested our hypothesis, it turned out true. Professor Alper is the strongest because of these hypotheses because of these factors that we presented earlier. And then we keep asking new questions until we actually identify the answer that we wanted to reach. And if anyone wanted to test it, they could. If I, as a person, as a researcher, wanted to justify it, I actually could also justify it. Now, just put in mind that research is, again, consider it as a subject, as a scientific subject, like economics, finance. It has principles. Yes, every subject has marketing principles, economics principles, finance principles. Research by itself also has principles, and it has characteristics. So research is a process. What kind of process it is? It's a process that we conduct, and we go from A to Z, from step 1 to step 100. There is a beginning and there is an end. However, that's not true, specifically in research, specifically in economics, in every subject. There is no end. There is always an expansion of knowledge. We're always reaching somewhere that we say that, oh, we didn't know that. And we keep doing the research until this field actually basically continues to grow, and it will never end. I just wanted to put this up front. Just remember that marketing will never reach a point that they know everything about marketing. Finance, same thing. Economics, any major you could think of. Research is the ability or the tool that enables us basically to continue contributing to our fields that we respect, or the fields that we're experts in. So the characteristic of research is a process through which we attempt, just wait a second, jumped. So research is a process through which we attempt to achieve systematically and with the support of data the answer to a question that we just basically imposed, and the resolution of a problem, or a greater understanding of a phenomenon. This process has 8 distinct characteristics. So the 8 distinct characteristics of research, this is what makes actually research. 1, it originates with a question or a problem. It doesn't have to be a question. It could be a problem that you're trying to solve. And the problem could actually give you a question or even questions as primary questions or secondary questions. Requires a clear articulation of a goal. What are you trying to reach? What's your goal? And then follows a specific plan of procedure. I do have a plan. I'm going to ask this, do this, put these factors, test them, and so on and so forth. You have a plan. It shows. And anyone could understand this kind of plan. Usually divides the principal problem into more manageable sub-problems. And that's why we call sometimes research question as primary question and secondary questions. And the secondary questions basically complements to the primary question. I could divide the problem into certain segments. For example, in Kuwait, to tackle the economical situation here in Kuwait, I could talk about politics in the beginning. And then I'll see myself talking about certain laws and articles from the Constitution. That will lead to my main problem, which is economics. We are guided in a way in a specific research problem or question or hypothesis by the system that we have or the plan that we have. The research needs to be guided. So basically, the research will guide you rather than you being guided by other aspects. So that's why the plan is in place. And we need to accept certain critical assumptions. There are things sometimes when we conduct research that might not go with our own understanding. However, we need to believe in that system. And we take it as the academic or the right answer, basically. I've seen many senior researchers and even youngsters right now doing their PhDs that they try their best to go against what the results are giving them. And that's the most dangerous thing that could happen for any researcher to do, because we need to give answers as they are and basically submit to them until another research comes and gives us a better answer or a different answer. And it requires a collection and interpretation of data in attempting to resolve the problem that we are initiating in the research. And this is something that we do as Dr. Steven. He's the coordinator of economics 2 here in AU. He gives the students a set of data. He gives them a question or whatnot. And then he tells them, give us your understanding, elaborate, explain what do you understand. And this is what we do as researchers. Once we collect the data and once we analyze them, we need to explain what are these data. Now, by its nature, it's a cyclical, or more exactly, helical. So the problem identification, reviewing information, data collection, analysis, and then we draw our conclusions. And this is the basic steps, basically. However, in many forms, or many PhD scholars or students that are conducting their PhD, they might see introduction, literature review, methodology, or theoretical framework, which is something that since the 2000s and onwards, people started basically adding as a section rather than being part of the methodology, which is called theoretical framework. And it goes on after theoretical framework, after methodology, theoretical framework, you go to your data collection, data analysis, results and findings, your discussion, and then you reach your conclusion. Now, one of the good questions would be is, why do we do research? And that's a question that I want to impose to you all. Why would we do research? Why would I spend time and do research? Why would AU create a policy in terms of promotion once you conduct research? Everything we see in academia is related to one of the pillars, either teaching, either research. And I have to say something today, and I feel before I ask you the question, or allow you to answer, I want to say this, and I hope it gets very clear. A good researcher does not mean he's a good teacher, and a good teacher does not mean he's a good researcher. And a good teacher could actually teach a good researcher, one or two things. And the same thing with the researcher. He could also teach a teaching faculty, not a researching faculty, one or two things. So I just need to mention this really, really well. Not everything is research in academia, because teaching has a big role. You don't have to publish to become a good teacher, and you don't have to teach really well to become a good researcher. They're both different aspects. They complement each other, correct? But they complete each other, correct? But it doesn't mean someone is better than the other. Okay? So my question now to you all is, why would we conduct research? We know that to help us understand, to gain more information, knowledge, but what's the purpose of conducting a research? Anyone? There is 5% marks for those that interact. Yes, go ahead, Ms. Fatima.
Yes, hello. We want to see whether we want to accept our hypotheses or not. That could be one reason. Want to explore. We're curious.
True. So we're talking about the purpose. Why? What purpose do I have to conduct research?
Omar, to advance knowledge, to develop understanding.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. So as my colleagues has mentioned, Ms. Fatma and Dr. Richard, so the purpose or objectives or purpose of research is basically the principal objective is to explore, is to describe, to explain, to predict. So we use research to our own advantage. Is it objectified? Yes. Could it be subjectified? Yes, it could be subjectified. But mainly it's objectified, and it has a purpose. The purpose of research is the following, as we said. It's either to explore something, describe something, explain it, or predict it. And by doing these kind of things, we actually reach many other aspects into research. For example, if we use the exploration purpose, it's basically to develop concepts more clearly, to establish priorities, to develop operational definitions. And I want you to put in mind, establish priorities. This is very important. Formulate research hypothesis, as Ms. Fatma also said. Improve the final research design. Now, you could read these examples that I have placed in place. And by the way, I could give you the reference of the material that I'm presenting right now by the end of the training, either today or the next session. So these are examples. While I'm speaking, you could take an example of what's an explorative study. Okay, so that's for those that wants to understand this study in a way or another, as an example. So while you could read that if you want, I'm going to jump to the other purpose, which is descriptive or description. Sometimes we have the purpose of doing research is basically to describe an activity or the thing that we're trying to study, or the things actually. And by saying describe, we're actually not trying to explain, we're actually trying to describe literally. And there's a problem sometimes in our students when we tell them explain and describe, and they tell us what's the difference. And is there anyone that knows what's the difference between describing and explaining, for example, when you describe something and when you explain something? I could start with a simple way. I could describe Dr. Steven. He's tall, blonde head, blue eyes, has a lot of muscles. I'm describing him. However, when I want to explain him, it's totally different.
Perfect
I want
description. Perfect description.
I know. And if I want to explain him, it's totally different. I'm not describing him anymore. I want to explain Dr. Steven. Dr. Steven, he's an economist. The school of thoughts that he actually follows. He does X, Y, Z because of X. He actually likes to eat this and do. I'm trying to explain his behavior, or I'm explaining him as a person rather than describing him. Do you get the concept? Or do you see the difference in a way? Yeah. Now, so the situation and events which are described through our studies are referred to as descriptive studies. Descriptive studies try to discover answers to the questions who, to basically these kind of questions: who, what, and when, and where, and sometimes how. Yeah. So just put that in mind in terms of descriptive. So we have now the first one, which is basically explorative studies, and then we have we have the exploration, and then we have the description, and now we have the casual explorations, causal explorations. So basically, causal exploration is referred to a cause or something that actually caused X, Y, Z, and I'm trying to identify it. I'm trying to basically study it, explain it, go into it, and explore its paradigm, its dimensions in a way or another. So basically, for example, why would a question would be why people are involved in crime? Can we explain this as a consequences of a present crisis in a job market, or for the lack of parental care? So is there a cause? Is something causing it to do what's doing? So it refers to the establishment of cause and effect. So it talks about the cause and effect relationship. Now, there is also something called prediction, and many professors they use this with their students when they write essays, especially when we were like youngsters. We used to be given essays to be written, and they always tell us write your recommendations and predictions. And prediction research is also great researchers use it, and you're trying to show based on your hypothesis, based on your data, what will happen in the future. You're talking always about the future. However, that's not also true, because you could actually predict certain answers, even if the data is the data is new, but the problem that you're talking about is old. However, you're predicting your answers. So the prediction could be for something in the future happening, or it could be a prediction of results and findings. I just don't want to bore you and read. So, and I could actually give this document that I have, I could share it with you all, and it has the references of where was all of this compiled from. Now, really quick, I want to talk about the types of research outputs, because I really have a practice that one, like something that we could do together by the end. of this session. So there is types of research outputs, and I want to list them to you in a way that is fun, and we could actually talk about them. And many of them we actually did, or actually saw while we were students in the past. So fundamental and applied research are the two main research categories. So we always hear this: applied research, fundamental research, applied research, and fundamental research. And it goes between these two kind of pillars in research. So the list of research that people are actually, doing in research is basically, there's something called fundamental research and applied research. Fundamental is known as basic or theoretical research, which is designed to help researchers better understand certain phenomena in the world. However, applied research is designed to identify solutions to specific problems or find answers to particular questions. Easy? That's in a nutshell. Now, the types of applied research include technological, scientific. Okay, so these two things are kind of related to the applied research types. So the technological is research looks for ways to improve efficiency in products, process, or production. So you could say, basically, I'm doing an applied research, which is using the technological aspect to answer X, Y, Z. However, I could do a scientific applied research, which measures certain variables to predict behaviors, outcomes, and impact. And this is one of the types that I use usually in my field, which is applied economics. I use applied research in a scientific mode. Now, there's something called action research. Action research refers to examining actions, assessing their effectiveness, and bringing out and the desired outcome, and choosing a course of action based on these results. And they call this action research. And as I said, while I'm reading, you could read these examples that I'm giving under each category that I'm talking about. And if I'm going fast, please slow me down. Now, causal research is basically, it's when you're trying to explain research seeking or determine the cause and effect relation, as we said before, in this kind of category. So it's always based on cause and effect, and it's called causal research. Yeah. And then there is classification research. And to me, and it depends on each, to me, it's one of the hardest ways of or types of research. It's basically when seeking or identifying and classifying individual elements of a group into larger groups or subgroups. Example, researchers study an animal species, placing them in a defined categories based on shared characteristics such as body segmentation, type of habitat, and so on and so forth. So you start classifying. So your research is classifying certain things, and you publish based on that, or you conduct your research based on that kind of aspect of research. Comparative to me is one of the easiest and straightforward type of research. It's when you compare two things or even more against each other or to each other. So you could talk about the correlation, you could talk about the regression, you could talk about the matrix correlation or the matrix regression among both basically individuals or subjects or groups. Now, there's something called also cross-sectional. Actually, before I continue, let me ask the question that I wanted to ask really quick. Is there a favorite type of research for you guys? I mean, I really hope that I could hear from everyone today. I want to start with, since I like nagging him, Dr. Steven. What's your favorite type of research, Dr. Steven?
I actually like research which is not always empirical. I think we have so much emphasis on empirical research at the moment. Everything is data.
True.
I like some of the old papers in economics that have not yet or have been partially empirically proven. Stuff like the Lemons Market paper by George Akerlof and things like this. And Milton Friedman stuff. I kind of like the pre the empirical revolution sort of stuff in some ways.
Totally agree. Dr. Richard, Dr. Wael, Professor Alper, Dr. Duha, Miss Marcel, Dania, Miss Fatma, Dr. Mirna, Dr. Marzia. I really hope I could at least hear
Omar,
3 or 4. Yeah.
my personal, can you hear me?
Yes.
My
Yes.
personal stuff is actually probably the opposite of Stephen, more sort of data-driven
Yeah.
types of research. I can do anything, but ultimately, obviously the methodology should follow the research question. So I don't mind any, but I prefer more empirical, data-driven papers.
I think because it makes it in a way easier. I don't know, Dr. Richard. It's easier for you because it's systematic, it's just data-driven and straightforward.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
my background's computer science, so
True.
it fits more with that, to be honest, than interviews and that type of thing.
We tend, the economists usually tend to complicate things, so I don't blame Dr. Stephen, and that's why I I agree with him. Ms. Marcel, Professor Alper, Dr. Mirna, Dr. Duha, anyone else? Ms. Marzia also I have, I think, in the list. I just want to hear your type of research. What's your favorite type of research? Dr. Faden, Dr. Yaman.
Dr. Omar,
Yes.
for me, I mean,
Yes.
I'm not definitely not an experienced researcher, but for me, the things that really interest me are exploratory research, things
Yes.
that people haven't, it's something that's a little bit groundbreaking. Those are the kinds of things that really interest me.
Curiosity, I guess. I mean, exploring new field or branches of, for example, marketing. Is that true, Ms. Marcel?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Neuromarketing specifically.
Yes. I think Dr. Mina wanted to say, we'll go with Dr. Mina, then I'll continue my session. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Mina.
Same for me, Dr. Omar. Exploratory research, perhaps.
I mean, I'm asking this question just to show you that we're not the same, and sometimes universities make or colleges makes this mistake by creating certain seminars or workshops in research or whatever, and it's not oriented on my preferences as a researcher. Yes, they're in the end they're all the same, but sometimes it could bore me to death to sit in a session that I'm not interested in the method that they're using. I'm not interested in the system that they're talking about or using. And now it makes more sense, to be honest. When I hear Miss Marcel talk about her preferences, I get it. I could relate to her basically characteristics as a person, her preferences as a person. It relates, Dr. Stephen, Dr. Richard, it all shows, it all makes sense. So I just wanted to show you this, that yes, we all maybe have PhDs, yes, we all have master degrees, and yes, we all conducted research and whatnot, but we might not be all the same in terms of what we prefer in research or how to conduct research or what do we do in research. I hope the message is there right now. We could use it against each other by saying, yes, I like what you published, but I don't believe in that system. Or the opposite. Wow, you have a great session, but I'm not interested in listening to that session because it's not my type of research. Do you get what I mean? So hopefully that's there right now. So we said comparative is one of the also ways that we could conduct research, and it's an easy way to conduct research. And there's cross-sectional research. A cross-sectional is basically when you're trying to cross from one group to another, or basically you're putting certain characteristics, for example, age or the income or tax or GDP. Okay, an example is a company such as the sale techniques of its top 10% of salespeople and compares them to those of its top or bottom 10%. This gives the company insights into the most successful and least successful sales methods. And basically, that's why they call it cross-section. So you're crossing from one section to another. For example, top oil producers and least oil producers, and you conduct a research based on them to understand. And I think we do it in a way in our e-portfolio, in a way, the highest and the lowest and the medium. We get a better understanding of what's happening in the class. Especially if I see the highest and the lowest, I could understand what's happening in the middle. Deductive research. Deductive research is basically when you test your theory or you're testing the theoretical framework that you have. Research is the opposite of inductive research. So basically, deductive is the opposite, obviously, and it moves from the from the broad to the specific. And this is why we always say narrow it down. I don't know if you heard the saying. I used to always hear it from my supervisor or supervisors. Narrow it down. You know, like go down the pyramid. Like it's a shifted pyramid. You know. Exploratory research, as Ms. Marcel, she preferred that. I think she's one of the people that preferred it, Dr. Mirna and whatnot. Exploratory research examines what is already known about a topic and what additional information may be relevant. It may rarely answer a specific question, but instead presents the foundational knowledge of a specific, of a subject as a precursor to further research. So this is basically exploratory. It's very easy, self-explanatory, and straightforward. And this is where you could actually fill in the gap. When we say there is a gap in literature, because you went and you explored, you found that gap, you could close it off. Even if you contribute 1% from that gap, you actually contributed to knowledge. So you did something. And this is something just to motivate my my colleagues, especially those who didn't maybe publish or didn't want to publish, or like me, who have a few publications yet. And hopefully I'll reach a level where I have some publications, not few. Every piece count, or every percentage count, every step you go forward, or you present to the field that you're in, actually is a contribution. So just remember that. Don't never downsize, your ambitions or whatever by saying that, what would my research do any difference? It might do any difference. Yes, just that's kind of like motivation. Field research occurs wherever the precipitation basically or precipitants or subjects are on location. So they go to the location that they want to be in, and they conduct field research. They study and observe, the field that they are in, and they conduct it by collecting data and basically implement observation. And this is called field research. I don't know if we, as College of Business right now, I don't know if we have people who published using field research. I think I remember Dr. Richard. I think you maybe did it in Oman, I believe, or you conducted maybe field research, or I'm mistaken. Is that true, Dr. Richard?
I did like sort of questionnaire-based research
Yeah.
with like triangulation. How does it define field research? I didn't read the text.
Yeah, sure. So basically, field research occurs wherever the participants or subjects are on location. This type of research requires on-site observation and data collection. So in a way, I think maybe you used aspects of field research, but maybe you published in a different method, most likely.
Yeah, I think isn't that like IMEC and EMEC? Where you sort of observe things.
Yes.
I think that's what it is.
Yes.
I didn't do. No, I think that's what.
Yeah. Ms. Marcel, do our students kind of in marketing, I think they do it in marketing research. Do they do field research, or is it just comparative or cross-sectional?
No, it's not field research. It's one of the other two. I'm not 100% sure which one, but no, they don't do field research at the moment.
I figured this because many people that use field research, mostly in geography, geology, these kind of majors, studying volcanoes. I mean, I'm sure that you guys seen many documentaries. These kind of researchers, these kind of scientists, they actually need to go to the field and observe and test their data. I hope it makes sense in a way, because in our kind of industry, I think it's a little bit tough to do such a thing. I mean, going to the field. Maybe Dr. Stephen and I would go to Wall Street, and hopefully Professor Alkan and Ms. Marcel would do that happen with the College of Business and send us to Wall Street, New York, and conduct our research. What do you think, Dr. Stephen?
I think that would be a pleasure. The school can fly us first class.
Let's see. Fixed research. Fixed research involves procedures determined ahead of time. So, and you might say, how is that possible? How can you actually determine ahead of time what would be involved in your research. A very good example is written here is a researcher wants to test how different labels affect consumers. Rating of a sport drink, for example. Participants are given the same drink with various labels at the same time and take a survey about taste and overall impressions, and the timing of providing each drink and the subsequent surveys are critical to the study validity. And this is basically called fixed research. Okay. Flexible research, and this is kind of fun and hard in the same time. I think I attended a seminar back in Australia, and they were talking about flexible research. And to be honest, it was to me one of the toughest. I don't know about you guys. So flexible research allows procedures to change throughout the course of the experiment, and this is to me very tough. So imagine while you're doing your research, things might change. The course of the experiment could change, and that's fine. And to them, that's significant, basically. So case studies, for example, case studies are in-depth analysis and observation about a specific individual or subject. And this subject that you're trying to study, he's unpredictable. He changes from one state to another, from being mad and suddenly he's happy. From happy, he's being sad, and so on and so forth. So you're actually, the experiment is changing from one day to another. Ethnographic studies basically are in-depth analysis and observation of a group of people. And again, if you notice, it's a subject that is people, for example, is unpredictable. Grounded theory studies are designed to develop theories based on a carefully collected and analyzed data. So this is called flexible research. And to me, as I said, it's a little bit tough because I'm not used to things being changed. I'm used to the controlled way of research. Inductive, as we said earlier, is going to be the opposite of deductive research. Inductive research is also known as a theory building research. So you collect data that may help you develop a new theory about a process or a phenomenon. Okay. And then we have laboratory research, and this is basically obvious. It is using labs, using tests. You're testing certain things, and your research actually is it's made or controlled into a laboratory. So it's a laboratory research. It's confined there rather than a field which is in the open. And then you have longitudinal research. Basically, it's when you follow in certain things, you're researching or focusing certain measurements such as trends, cohorts, panel. And this is the kind of longitudinal research that we are talking about right now. And I'm sure maybe the guys in marketing, Dr. Richard, Dr. Faden, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Marcel, I'm sure that many researchers publishes in marketing, maybe in this aspect. I don't know if that's true or not. And I'm relating to trends and I'm relating to these kind of things to that kind of major. I don't know if that's true, guys. Is it in a way?
Yes, Dr. Omar, longitudinal research refers when you are measuring using the same items and the same scales in 2 or more different time periods. And then you are trying to make comparisons. While in cross-sectional, you have only one measurement at one period of time.
Exactly.
This is the difference between longitudinal and cross-sectional. So yes, in marketing, you can find both cross-sectional and longitudinal studies.
True. And then you have the mixed research. And now the mixed research, I mean, hopefully some researchers are not smiling right now. I mean, this is where I call it the escape. If you're stuck and you don't know which research you should go with, and you're just stuck. Basically, you go with the mixed research. However, it could actually backfire because there are certain research that cannot be conducted in a qualitative aspect or in a quantitative aspect. So also be careful from that thing and put that in mind. So the results are basically when you have mix of graphs, words, and images. So you have a mix of both approaches. So we call methodology, and then this is the method. Basically, we're talking about the methods that are used. However, the approach is mixed, such as qualitative or quantitative. And there is some. Yes,
that
go
one.
ahead.
So normally it would be like you do exploratory, like you said,
Yes.
So you'd conduct questionnaires, interviews, then you'd come up with some sort of theoretical model,
True.
and then you'd the model using explanatory. That's the
Exactly.
normal route.
Yeah. And then you could call your research as a mixed research, basically. That's what you wanted to say, Dr. Richard, correct?
Yeah, that was it.
Yes,
Yeah, because
perfect,
usually it's two-stage. That's normally how they sort of those papers follow.
Exactly. And then there is policy research. Now, policy research, Dr. Stephen would be for sure. He went through certain research that's conducted as we call it policy research, and we use it a lot in economics. Policy research is basically when you examine basically the effects of current government or social policies, or predicts the potential effects of proposed policies related to the distribution of resources and so on and so forth. It talks about the cost analysis, cost benefits analysis, program evaluation, needs analysis, and you're trying to target certain policies that are in place, and you're researching in them, and you're trying to understand them more. You're trying to explore them, predict them, describe them, and so on and so forth. Now, don't get me wrong. It could be actually even used in marketing, and you want to see certain effects of policies in marketing. For example, in Kuwait, I'm sure my fellow marketeers here would notice that even marketing strategies that has certain advertising approaches should basically follow up with certain policies in Kuwait. How would a woman wear a dress, to which length, the photography, the advertisement, the sign, what words to be used, colors, and so on and so forth. Do you get what I mean? Dr. Faden, can you relate something about policy research that is, for example, in marketing or management, for example? Okay, you can. Dr. Faden is not here, maybe. Yes, maybe doesn't make it. Anyway, so yeah, anyone else? Dr. Steven, can you relate something to policy research?
Yeah, I can. As you said, in economics, but I feel they're non-mutually exclusive in the sense that, you know, a longitudinal data set is the ideal approach to take towards policy research. So if you're just studying a kind of before and after trend with the policy, then you're going to need, of course, a time series in the data. And if you can mix time series and cross-sectional, a panel data set is probably a panel data set under random selection is probably the gold standard for applying it. And obviously it gets a lot of money in because a lot of think tanks and other places have a vested interest in showing whether a policy has been successful or not. So yeah, so that would be my take on it.
I totally agree. And by the way, I'll tell you in the end why am I keeping asking like field, like in marketing, economics. I'll say this in a bit. Just by the end, I'll tell you why am I identifying certain things as fields. Now, qualitative research, and many of our colleagues here, and I'm one of them, I sometimes publish in qualitative research. And qualitative research involves a non-numerical data, and such as opinions and literature and so on and so forth. It uses descriptions to obtain the meanings and feelings involved in a situation. And businesses often use qualitative research to determine consumer opinions and reactions. And an example of that is focus groups, surveys, participant comments, observations, interviews. This is all qualitative. And that's why you tend to hear a lot of qualitative research being applied in the business school or colleges of business. An example would be a marketing organization present a new commercial to a focus group before airing it publicly to receive feedback. And the company collects non-numerical data, the opinions of the focus group participants, to make basically decisions to go forward or to change certain things in that commercial. Now, quantitative, I don't want to say quantitative is technically the opposite. It's let's put it this way, it's different. It's not 100% opposite, because we could use this data and then identify them with certain words to make an understanding of them. So quantitative research depends on numerical data, such as statistics and measurements, to investigate specific questions like who and what and where and when. The results are usually presented in tables or graphs. And that's why we use survey research, descriptive research, or correlation research. And This is where it gets a little bit confusing. Yes, I could use survey for quantitative research, and that's totally fine. Now, before I continue, I just want to make something clear. Everything I just mentioned just now, it does not relate only to economics and certain things or marketing or management. It actually, it's regardless of what major you are in, they could be applied in every major, in every field, and in every scientific branch of knowledge, basically. So the list that I just read till S, from A to S, could be applied in any major. Marketing, economics. I could use any one of these that I just read in economics, or marketing, or medicine, or physics. Now, the only one that could be tough, and that's the only one I'm talking about that could be, which is the laboratory one. However, I could relate. For example, if I'm conducting a research with a biologist who's talking about certain things in the lab conducted, and then I talk about the economical aspect of such a thing. For example, a pharmaceutical company researchers a new drug formula to determine if would benefit diabetes patients, so on and so forth. So basically here you could notice it's related basically about specifically laboratory research. However, it could have aspects of economics, the effect on people, the behavior, and so on and so forth. So that's the only one that could be tricky. Otherwise, most of what we just talked about could be implemented in each field that knowledge has or science has, basically. Now I want to stop for today for here. However, I want to start my basically I'm gonna practice something with you guys and have an interaction with all, hopefully, and then from there we'll see what happens. Miss Marcel, bless you. Go ahead. Just you can take the mic. You don't have to raise your hand.
Thanks so much. Dr. Omar, I'm sorry, I had a student come in at the beginning and I just wanted to double check. Is there abductive research mentioned in your document?
There is inductive and deductive.
But not abductive?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
because
it's
that's
not
what I'm
all of
doing, and I just want to double check.
Yeah,
okay.
you could definitely tell us about it. I mean, there's a lot of others that I didn't mention, but this is the list that I felt, could cover all grounds. It turned out I didn't. So tell us about your research type.
It's from what I've gathered, it's more for exploratory research, and it's really coming up with, it's where something has not been studied beforehand, and so you're coming up with new theories. I'm reading up a lot on it at the moment, so I'll give you some more feedback a bit later. I was hoping that it was in the document so that I could just confirm that it is actually what I'm doing, but I'll read up some more and then come back to you guys on it.
Sure, definitely. I mean, as I said, there is a lot of other ways, and there's other types. I mean, I tried my best to give
No, you've
the
given
biggest,
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, from A to S. I don't know even in terms of numbers. I should convert them to numbers to know how many lists I gave you. But this is mainly the types that I know of, and I know a lot of people that are using. And something Dr. Richard said, which is very important, you could actually mix between these types, and then you could go with the mixed approach, basically, or mixed research approach. So can you do one? You could do two. You could do. I've seen a paper that actually used the maximum that I saw is four types of research in one. So that's also totally fine. Yeah, then that's totally fine. Because Miss Marcel could say, sorry, because Miss Marcel could say, I want to explore something. However, I want to also introduce the cross-sectional or the language, as Dr. Faden also said. You got your time, Miss Marcel.
Absolutely. So can I do a quick shout out to my colleagues?
Yes.
If any of you have done abductive research beforehand, if you wouldn't mind reaching out to me just so that I can make sure that I'm on the right track, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
So that was this is pure marketing, Miss Marcel, advertising in my session. I'm gonna take money for it. I'm gonna take money for that. Bless you, bless you. Dr. Steven, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just going to say, I've never heard of abductive in my life, to be honest. I've never heard of it.
Marketing departments are different, Dr. Stephen. We're special.
Yeah.
We come up with new things.
Okay, guys, it's going to be we're starting a war right now. So let's continue with our practice before we have our work conducted. So my practice is very simple, Ms. Marcel, Dr. Stephen. It's just a question, okay? It's just I want to hear a question from you guys, and let's be all as a panel, all of us, not me. I mean, I'm a colleague in the end. I'm not the senior faculty here. I'm here to learn from you guys and help others in the same time. So let's put this question: can we, each one of us, just say a question, and let's decide if that's a good research question? Do you get what I mean? It's just as simple as that. I mean, I would ask a question, and Dr. Stephen, Richard, Ms. Marcel, Dr. Mirna, and so on could actually say, yes, that's a good question, or actually you should add this, or actually why didn't you ask it in this way? Do you guys get what I mean? Just one simple question, and let's decide if that's a good research question or not. It's as simple as that. And I'm giving you 12 marks on it. And since, as we said, Dr. Stephen is my mate, I'm going to start with Dr. Stephen. Dr. Stephen, go ahead. One good research question.
So you want me to think of a research question in my own field, which is just a basic research question, right?
Yes, and then we, those who are in the meeting, could be the panel. We could say, yes, that's a great question. We could give you feedback by saying, why don't you ask in this way or whatever. It's just a small practice. You know why I'm asking this, Dr. Stephen? Because I noticed many master students or PhD students, they actually they either overcomplicate the question, or the question is not even a research question. For example, if I say, who's taller, Dr. Stephen or Dr. Umar? That's a rubbish research question. It's not a research question. Do you get what I mean, Dr. Stephen?
Yes.
So I feel it's very important to understand what is a research question.
Okay, so then if I give an example and I say, has the consequences of Brexit been negative to the United Kingdom?
That's a lovely research question. Do you want me to say why, or do you want to say it? Do you want to say why, Dr. Stephen?
Well, I feel I know the answer.
I totally agree. I mean, who thinks it's not a good research question? I mean, let's be honest. It's just a simple game that we're trying to play here. Why do you think?
It depends how you operationalize the word consequence, right? Because
yes,
you've got political, economic, power. There's loads of different ways, right? So
exactly.
So the research question I think is fine, but then obviously how you define for the purposes of measuring is crucial to the answer to that question, Stephen. So I know it's where you're going to go with that.
Yeah, I mean, then of course, after that, I define consequence to be, broadly speaking, living standards, which I know you can break up into other factors such as, material living standards and non-material living standards and other things like that. So I know there's a Russian doll inside it, a doll inside a doll sort of thing. But ultimately, living standards would be the consequentially dependent variable in that question.
And that's what makes it a good research question. Don't you agree, Dr. Richard?
But how can you measure the counter to that? How could you measure the difference? Because you can't say what there would have been if.
Well,
is it the counterfactual?
Well, there will be counterfactuals that no counterfactual is going to be perfect, but you can come up with certain counterfactuals. Like you can look at the performance of members who stayed in the club with similar characteristics. Of course, there's no perfect answer, but there's a beyond reasonable doubt sort of way that you can come to with multiple counterfactuals. And trend
Sounds
analysis.
Like a political paper, Stephen. This should be in the Journal of Political Marketing, I think.
Marketing, no.
and basically, Richard, Dr. Richard, we could convert these things into measurement, and we have a saying. It's a very well-known saying. Anything that is measured could be managed. So once we have our measurements, we could manage it, and once we could manage it, then we could, basically describe it or explain it, or so on and so forth. And from there, we have our research. Anyone else? Any other research questions? Just small practice. Let's see what we have. Miss Dania, Miss Alex, Miss Marcel, Dr. Wael. Anyway, just one last one before we.
Omar, I'll go.
Yes.
This one was like, what is the meaning of life? Quite broad.
I think it's a tricky question, Dr. Rich. It is a good research question. But what are you researching? Is it life itself?
Good question. I think this is the ultimate research question, right? That we all ask ourselves every day. So I think it's a good one.
I think it's going to be a key one, mate.
What's
Ms.
your,
Marcel, go
what's
ahead.
your counterfactual for that, Rich? What's your counterfactual?
Dr. Stephen, no grudges.
Well, does it
Dr.
count
Stephen.
existing? That's part of it.
Ms. Marcel, bless you. Go ahead.
For me, to what extent will artificial intelligence make us more intelligent or less intelligent?
Yes, that's definitely a good research question. Because see, I don't know if you, my colleagues, if you noticed the way she structured the question, she's actually giving you two aspects, and she imposed her question. And now I need to conduct research, collect my data, and whatnot to answer basically these the statement that she mentioned. Is it good or bad? And of course, Ms. Marcel, Dr. Richard will jump and tell you exactly in which area and which way. So it is a good question from me. Anyone else? Do you have any opinion on what Ms. Marcel just proposed as a question?
I think it suffers from some of the same things Richard said about mine, in the sense that
Oh my God.
then we have to define intelligence, you know. But that's going to be the way with most things, I guess.
Dr. Richard,
But
please buy
Dr.
coffee.
Dr. Stephen, is that not where you would go down into your objectives and, put those forward as objectives? So you're going to try and sort of define these things and drill down further.
I think
You have to operationalize AI and intelligence, I guess, and some sort of professor and worse, wouldn't you?
It's overly philosophical, because you could say, does a calculator make me more intelligent or not? In a way, it makes me more productive. But does it make me forget about the skills which defined me as intelligent prior to me having a calculator, if you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Not only this, Dr. Stephen, I could ask, what is good by itself? Define good and define bad. And to whom it's good and to whom it's bad. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Ms. Marcel?
Yeah, but mine was an intelligence measurement, which we have measurements for that. Will it make me more intelligent or less intelligent? So I'd have a starting point, and it would be a longitudinal study as well.
And you need to identify also intelligence. Well, what does intelligence mean in that sense and that term? I mean, I totally agree that intelligence should be one, whether you're in Kuwait or in Australia or Yemen or whatever background you come from, what opportunities you have, what standard of living. I mean, intelligence is intelligence. Don't you agree, Ms. Marcel?
Yeah, absolutely.
So to that extent, I totally agree. I mean, it could be tested. It could be doable. One identification would be a problem with data collection. I think that's going to be one of the biggest data that you need to collect, basically. Dr. Stephen, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. Sometimes I'm just from my microphone because I'm about to say something and I say, no, I won't say anything, sir.
No worries. Anyway, to conclude this small session, again, I'm not here to train anyone. I'm here just to open doors and try to show you things in a different way, or remind you. Most of you, mashallah, you know these kind of things, Dr. Richard, Dr. Stephen, Ms. Marcel, and everyone here with us today. I just try to basically remind you of these kind of things and show you that there is a lot of other ways and approaches. Now, how to write them and how to basically label them or give them names in terms of what you're doing. In the next session, hopefully I'll try to show how do you present research, what ways are there to present research. So today we saw the writing approach, or how do you write them and what kind of types that you could use to help you write your research. And hopefully in our next session, we're going to talk about how do you present research and what ways of there are for presenting research. Is there any questions, or did I conclude?
All good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks
Bless
very
you
much.
all. Thank you, sir.
Good.
Thank you, ma'am. Bless you all. Thank you very much for attending. And hopefully I'll see you very soon. Thank you and see you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Omar.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ms. Tan. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dr. Omar.
Thank you,
ma'am.
Dr. Omar.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bless you.